A search and rescue operation is currently underway by the army and police in northwest Nigeria's Zamfara state. This follows an attack on a school during which at least 317 schoolgirls were kidnapped. Unidentified gunmen stormed the boarding school dormitory at the government school's science secondary school in the town of Jangebe. It's the third such incident since December in Africa's most populous nation.
Reports say the assailants struck the government girls' secondary school in Zamfara state in a pre-dawn ambush. No one has so far claimed responsibility for the attack, but criminal gangs known as bandits are increasingly seizing groups for ransom, a menace that has prompted some Nigerians to call for a national state of emergency. Police say they have begun search and rescue operations with the army to find the suspected kidnappers.
It's an established fact that students were kidnapped, and we're on the trail of the kidnappers. That's why you find us in the fringes of the forest here. It's part of our locational effort, and it's part of our cordoning effort. Okay. In order to retrace the kidnappers and retrieve the students.
Kidnappings are just one of security challenges facing Africa's most populous country, where militants are waging an insurgency in the northeast and ethnic tensions are simmering in some southern regions. Northwest and central Nigeria have increasingly become a hub for large criminal gangs who raid villages, killing and abducting residents after looting and torching homes. Bandits operate out of camps in Rugu Forest, which straddles Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna and Niger states. In the most notorious kidnapping in Nigeria in recent years, militant group Boko Haram abducted 276 schoolgirls from the town of Chibok in Borno State in April of 2014. The girls were eventually rescued by security forces after some managed to escape.
Human rights activist and journalist Omoyele Sowore joins us now via Skype from Abuja in Nigeria on this latest development, just days after 42 other people were abducted in that country. It's incredible that we're talking again so soon about the same action, but again this time so many more children gone.
Yes. It's very sad. I think when we were rounding up our conversation last time, I told you that kidnapping has become very lucrative in Nigeria. Now it has become the kidnapping industrial complex. And it's the most lucrative. It sells better than the Nigerian Brent crude now.
It almost sounds as if we are completely in a state of anarchy.
Well, it was an anarchy. I think we've lost control of security in Nigeria, and Nigeria is bereft of any kind of leadership that can secure its citizens. And as I mentioned last time, we just have a president who is presented as a mannequin to convince people that he's still alive, not in charge, not the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So things just happen on autopilot in Nigeria. It's so shameful, it's so sad. And I'm really sad tonight because I can imagine if I was one of those kids that got 317 of them tonight. I don't know how I feel.
When we last spoke, I think 40 plus people had been abducted. What has been their fate so far? Are they still in a captivity?
They're still in captivity to the best of my knowledge, even though there's been conflicting reports in the media that they've been released. We don't have any evidence that they've been released yet. So I cannot categorically say that they're free. But as far as I know, they're not home yet with their parents. This includes students and teachers, by the way.
So there's no doubt that these 317 girls, it's all about ransom.
It is. It's about ransom. Is the 42 kids that I mean, it's 42 persons that were deported the last time in Niger State. I think they said Nigeria paid about 800 million naira. If my calculation is right, that's about $2 million. So you can imagine, just do your calculation. If there are 317 and they're girls, and you know the rest of the world will be interested in this, probably this time around we'll be talking about $20 million to get them out. I mean, what could be more lucrative than that?
A report by a consulting company, SB Morgan, says that in the last 10 years, Nigerians have paid at least 18 million US dollars to liberate themselves or loved ones. And this is quite concerning. And I just wonder, if we think about how much money that is, you could almost double the size of the army to fight this and still have change.
Well, you know, I don't think even that figure is accurate, because I'm aware that $10 million was paid for the few Chibok girls that were released. By the way, there's still some Chibok girls in captivity, and you remember there were Dapchi girls who were captured from the town of Dapchi, and then later returned about in a few days. That cost $15 million. The last one that we're talking about is $2 million. If my arithmetic is right, we're talking about almost $50 million paid to kidnappers officially by the Nigerian state. So, and I tell you, it's also a corrupt process and system in which the Nigerian state officials themselves take their own cuts from the ransom payment. Because this is not accounted for, nobody follows it up, nobody knows how much is withdrawn, and it's cash transaction, purely cash transaction. Nobody is making transfer from one account to the other, because kidnappers and bandits and terrorists don't use bank accounts.
When a state fails to protect its citizens, is that not a cue or a sign for a regional body like ECOWAS, like the African Union, perhaps to deploy some kind of force to protect citizens?
You make me laugh. The African Union is a tea party. You know, it's just a tea drinking organization. ECOWAS is the same. All of them are afraid of Nigeria. If Nigeria coughs, if they sneeze, they catch cold. You know, I mean, who is that responsible African leader who's going to step out of line and fight to make Nigeria responsible? I don't see them yet, because, you know, they all do the same things in their own systems. You know, they're undemocratic, they're brutal. So it's more of the African Union, in my view, is like Alcoholic Anonymous. You know, it's just like you have a bunch of alcoholics coming together to just figure out why they drink.
It seems that the modus operandi has changed for these kidnappers. Before, it used to be wealthy people that were targeted, but now it's poor and vulnerable communities, because I guess, as you say, it's still just as lucrative, but it's actually easier to attack these vulnerable spots.
Yes. And it's as if, you know, over the years, because there's been less investment in education and protection of rights of citizens, you know, security, it's as if the state puts out these schools and girls and boys to be kidnapped or killed by militants. You know, one thing we hear in Nigeria is the moment there's a kidnapping, we go to the school, and they look like pigsties, you know, they look like pens, you know, they look like poultries. And you're wondering why anybody would run such schools. Let me also take you to a little bit of history. This same Jangebe, in year 2000, was a place where they introduced Sharia. And when they introduced Sharia, it was the first place where they found the guy who was amputated for stealing a goat. Wow. And the governor of the state who approved the amputation eventually stole billions of naira, went ahead to marry a 13-year-old girl from Egypt, actually bought her outright, and he was never punished for it. So it tells you, you know, the hypocrisy about our society, and the the gap between the rich and poor and the political elite and these helpless people. We feel bad for these individuals or persons who are left at the whims and caprices of criminals. But, let me say it here today to the world, the greatest bandit in Nigeria is the Nigerian government.
Omoyele, this can't carry on. I mean, this is untenable. What can Nigerians do? I mean, they forced the shutdown of SARS. Can they not do something about this?
The next step is to force the shutdown of the Nigerian government, the rogue government that is running Nigeria. And I'm involved, and several other persons are involved in a campaign to force the mannequin who is Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, to leave office. There's nothing better than this, They must be made to pay for the crimes that they have committed against Nigerian people. And I think that campaign is gaining momentum. For those of you in South Africa, this is our own apartheid moment.
Mm. What do the children do in the meantime? Alarm bells should have been raised when the 40 plus were abducted just over a week ago, 10 days ago. Would that have meant that you shut schools, that you send children back home? What are they meant to do?
They'll be happy to send the children to school. Out of school. They don't care about education. But look, what is for me very traumatizing is that I knew when I was growing up as a child, how when I was 10 years old, police invaded my village. And it traumatized me my entire life. I can imagine children waking up this morning telling their parents, they just kidnapped our colleagues or our friends in Zamfara state. Are we safe to go to our school? Will it happen to us? These things don't leave the minds of children. It destroys their psyche, it destroys their self-confidence, and it destroys their belief in adults. That's the worst part. And sadly, we don't have a psychosocial support system for kids in this country. How do they get through this and just continue to believe that there's a future for them? That's the hard part. I sometimes cry about this.
Omoyele, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very, very much indeed, as always, for your insights on this very, very sad situation. Thank you.